He's back to pass. Pressure coming. He's going to get hit in the end zone. That's going to be a safety.
It's now time for Gridiron State of the Union.
Another touchdown, Porter Ridge, and they've gone up. The score is 23-17.
Presented by DMR Reconstruction, North Carolina's leader in quality insurance restoration services, with crews on standby 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. DMR Reconstruction has your restoration needs covered. Give them a call at 704-327-4028.
He's going to hand it off to Byram. Byram on the right-hand side. He's going to be into the end zone. Touchdown, Monroe.
Gridiron State of the Union is your insider's look each week into Union County High School football.
Malcolm fires one off, and it's into the end zone. Touchdown, Piedmont.
Now we head into the DMR Reconstruction Studio and your host, Brian Stevenson.
Week 1 is in the books, and for the most part, it was a good week for Union County teams. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Gridiron State of the Union. I'm your host, Brian Stevenson. Last week, Weddington, Forest Hills, Central Academy, and Cuthbertson all got wins. In games where both teams were in county, Parkwood beat Union Academy, and Monroe defeated Sun Valley. Marvin Ridge was the only other team to not get a win last week. They fell to South Meck. We have a packed show for you tonight coming up in a few minutes. I'll talk to Sideline Mike about the first week of the season, and in our Coach's Corner segment, we'll talk with Luke Hyatt of the Piedmont Panthers. But right now, it's time for our trip around Union, and we start things off tonight with Derek Skinner.
Central Academy travels to Highland Tech this week. Last week, the Cougars got a 20-18 win over Mount Island Charter. It was the first game for head coach Shane Griffin. Senior Jack Hayda ran for 218 yards on 28 carries in the win. Central Academy's opponent this week, the Cougars of Highland Tech, come into the game with a 0-1 record. They lost to Newton Conover 54-0 last week. Next up, the Marvin Ridge Mavericks traveled to Monroe. Last week, the Mavericks fell to South Meck 28-17. Quarterback Austin Colonna threw for 210 yards and a score, but he had one pick on the night. If Coach Aubrey Carter and the Mavericks hope to get win number 1, they will have to take down a tough Monroe team. Last week, the Red Hawks took it to Sun Valley 49-25. Right out of the gate, Braxton Knotts took the opening kick 85 yards for the score, and the Red Hawks never looked back. McKinley Nelson ran for 151 yards on 18 carries. This will be the home opener for the Red Hawks. Now let's go to Ken Ogden with a report on Parkwood and Cuthbertson.
The Parkwood Rebels will try to improve to 2-0 when they travel to Cuthbertson this week. Last week, the Rebels beat Parkwood 34-6. Donovan Harris carried the ball 10 times for 68 yards and 2 scores. The Rebels will have their hands full this week as they go up against one of the best teams in the state last year. Cuthbertson and quarterback Austin Kendall beat Victory Christian 56-0 last week. Kendall threw for 105 yards and 2 scores on the night. Junior Kendrick Ivey also ran for 3 scores in the game. Next up, Porter Ridge and Piedmont. Friday night will be the season opener for the Pirates. The team is trying to rebuild after just getting 2 wins last season. Last season, the Pirates fell to Piedmont 36-33. The 2015 Panthers are coming off a big 24-20 Week 1 win last week. It was the first win for new Piedmont coach Luke Hyatt. Chris Missick ran for 143 yards on 23 carries. Now, let's head to the Sideline Mike with a report on Sun Valley.
Sun Valley will try to bounce back from their tough loss to Monroe this week when they host North Stanley. The Spartans started off slowly against Monroe, but they did seem to find some rhythm on offense in the second half last week. Freshman quarterback Sam Howell threw for 166 yards in the loss. The Comets come into this game 1-0. Last week they beat Bunker Hill 34-19. Next up is the WIXE Game of the Week. Weddington travels to Marshfield to face the Forest Hills Yellow Jackets. The Jackets won their opener last week against Anson 13-6. Zacchaeus Rory was 12 for 22 passing. That resulted in 93 yards and a touchdown. The Jacket defense was stingy. Nigel Wingo had 2 sacks and 6 total tackles. Forest Hills will have to play tough D on Friday night if they hope to get the win against Weddington. Last week, the Warriors defeated Ardrey Kell 30-13 in a fourth quarter comeback. After being shut out for 3 quarters, Weddington poured on the points in the 4th quarter, scoring 30 unanswered points. It should be a good game this week between Forest Hills and Weddington. Tune in to the Mighty 1190 on Friday night. Pregame starts at 7 o'clock. Now let's head back to the studio and Brian Stevenson.
Thanks a lot, Mike. One other game to talk about. Union Academy tries to get in the win column this week when they host Lake Norman Charter. It will be Lake Norman Charter's first game of the season. Now we got to take our first time out on Gridiron State of the Union, but when we come back, Sideline Mike will rejoin us to talk about the highs and lows of Week 1. Gridiron State of the Union will be right back.
Thank you for tuning in and listening to the Gridiron State of the Union, brought to you exclusively by DMR Reconstruction. Fire, water, wind, or mold damage, they are your go-to source. And if you're thinking about remodeling, from the tip top of the roof to the bottom of the foundation, they can handle it for you. Windows, doors, paint, floors, vinyl siding, they do it all at DMR Reconstruction. Stop by and visit their showroom on Highway 74 in Marshville, North Carolina. You'll be glad you did. 704-327-4028, 327-4028, and they hope you're enjoying the Gridiron State of the Union, brought to you by DMR Reconstruction.
Welcome back to Gridiron State of the Union. It's time now for our roundtable segment. I'm joined by Sideline Mike. And Mike, Week 1's in the books. Of course, we were out at Sun Valley with that Monroe game. Tell me your thoughts after coming out of Week 1.
Well, I tell you, Sun Valley was a little lackluster on the offense from what I was watching. You know, I kind of expected a little bit more. The freshman quarterback, Sam Howell, had a good game. They just weren't able to put it all together, and the smaller 2A school in Monroe able to get the big victory last week. When you look around the rest of the league, things kind of went as expected. There really wasn't any upsets. Little surprised Marvin Ridge falling to South Meck in Week 1, but I think they'll get things together, and they certainly are going to need to have it together this week.
Well, of course, I believe that's Monroe is who they play this week, so very tough start potentially for Marvin Ridge there. Let's talk about Monroe just a second. Monroe. We talked a lot about their defense, something we're not accustomed to talking about, wasn't it?
Well, Monroe's normally that team that will put 21 to 35 points on you in the first half, and they just kind of ride the rest of the game out because of numbers. They're kind of tired, but the defense looked really, really good Friday night. It was definitely a bright spot for Monroe, and that's something, as you said, we're not used to saying, but it was definitely something that was a welcome sight Friday night.
Well, let's move on now to the game that we will be calling this week. Weddington travels to Forest Hills. Little interesting that you see that Weddington wins big 30-13, but then you hear the full story. They had to come back and score 30 points in the 4th quarter.
Well, a 30-13 victory for Weddington is nothing new. When you take into account they were playing Audrey Kell, and as you said, 30 unanswered points in the 4th quarter, that's getting it done. So Weddington's going to be bringing not only an offense that's capable of putting 30 up on in 1 quarter, but a defense that's also able to pretty much shut you out in the second half as well. And any defense that can hold Audrey Kell to 13 points, they've got something special going on up in Weddington.
What will Forest Hills do or need to do to stay in this one and potentially come out with a home victory?
Well, Forest Hills has always been good athletically, and they're going to have to depend on the speed, and they're going to have to also have a power game against Weddington. You know, they're going in at a little disadvantage. You get a 2A school going against a 3A school, but Forest Hills looked well against East Lincoln out of the FCA Jamboree. So I think that they've got something in their bag for Weddington.
Should be a good one, and I look forward to being there with you and Shane Green on Friday night. Sideline Mike joining us for our roundtable segment this week. And when we come back, the coach of the victorious Piedmont Panthers, Luke Hyatt, right after this on Gridiron State of the Union.
Hey, we'll be back to more Gridiron State of the Union in just a moment, but in the meantime, every person wants to be part of a winning team, and I want to tell you about the winning team over at DMR Reconstruction. Now, if you have fire, water, wind, or mold damage to your home, they can help you. They'll help you deal with the insurance company. They'll make it look better than it did before the accident ever happened. But did you know that they also do all kinds of home improvement? They're licensed general contractors. You thinking about new kitchen cabinets, new floors, new countertops? Maybe you need a new door. Maybe you need to paint or new vinyl siding, refinishing floors, installing carpet. They do it all at DMR Reconstruction, and they are your winning team. 704-327-4028, 327-4028, or visit the brand new showroom, Highway 74 in Marshville. It's DMR Reconstruction, exclusive sponsors of the Gridiron State of the Union and the DMR Red Zone. And now back to more action with the Gridiron State of the Union.
Welcome back to Gridiron State of the Union. I'm joined now by the coach of the Piedmont Panthers, Luke Hyatt. And, Coach, your first game at Piedmont and a win, that has to feel good to get off on the right foot.
It was. It was a good night up here in Unionville, and, kids came out and played well against a good football team. Hickory Ridge, I think they're going to make a little noise up their way as the year goes along. But, real excited to get that win. 24-20
was the final score. A little bit of a comeback in the fourth quarter, but everything I've heard about the way your men played up until that fourth quarter was just very methodical, very disciplined. Tell me your take as you look back at the film.
Well, I mean, we kind of installed a ball control offense with what we're doing, and we took 73 snaps on offense and limited Hickory Ridge to about 37. So that kept our defense off the field, kept them fresh, and we were just fortunate to start the game off quick, jump up 14-0. There at the end of the game, we kind of fell asleep a little bit there in the secondary, but we had good enough lead, and special teams ended up being big for us too as well. Field goal right before halftime turned out to be pretty big for us.
Talk about, I see 143 yards here from Ryan Missick. Tell me about his play, and is this part of that game control offense that you've told us about so much?
It is. Chris did a good job in the backfield for us, and we knew he would, and a lot of this credited, and I'm sure he'll credit it too, to our offensive line and the job they're doing. We're returning just one starter up front on offense, and it's they did a real good job, and Chris, and not only Chris, Josh Calora and Jordan Dees as well, our fullback, did a good job of holding on to the football and just going forward.
Tell me about practice this week and the preparation for Porter Ridge, a team that Piedmont finally beat last year, and a team I know you want to continue and start maybe a streak here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a pretty big rivalry game up here. I've been talking to the kids all week and telling them to, educate me a little bit in the rivalry. It's my first year in it, and, we're only separated by about 10 minutes, just a short bus ride. And, these kids know each other. A lot of them grew up together. And, Porter Ridge is, a lot of tradition up there here in the last couple of years of what they've done, 2 state championship appearances and things like that. I know they're, coming off a little bit of a struggle season, but you watch them on film, they're full of athletes, kids that can make play with the ball in their hands. We're going to have to come out and play our best. And, but, the kids are kind of educating me on what's been going on with it and things like that. But, we got to remember it's a great rivalry. We also remember we got a football game to play on Friday night.
What will be the key to victory for the Panthers on Friday night?
Well, I think just us limiting the mistakes, holding on to the football. We said all year long, if we don't turn the football over and don't give up big plays on defense, then we're going to have a chance to compete with everybody. And, that held true the other night. We held on to the football, and defense played well for, probably 44 minutes, and then we gave up a couple big plays there at the end, and, but held on. But I think that's going to be the key. I think offense, we got to clean some things up, ball handling wise, and just some things like that. But that's the thing, just, hold on to the football and just execute. It's all about executing, and, it's going to be a tough matchup for us.
Thanks to Coach Luke Hyatt for being our Coach's Corner guest this week.
Time for Extra Points.
In my Extra Points tonight, a win or loss in Week 1 doesn't make or break a season, but it does tell a team where they are now that the games are for real. Weddington, having to make a fourth quarter comeback, was one of the more interesting storylines of the week. It will be interesting to see how they respond to Forest Hills. And Sun Valley struggled against Monroe. Let's see how they can bounce back against North Stanley. And finally, the feel-good story of the week for me was Piedmont starting the Luke Hyatt era with a win. By all accounts, their ball control offense looked impressive. And with that, we are all out of time. Special thanks to Tim Farmer and DMR Reconstruction for sponsoring the show each and every week. And thank you, the listener, for tuning in. We've examined the state of our union, and I can report it is good. Good night, everybody.